Hello and welcome back. This is a fourth grade math video where today's focus is going to be on factors and factor pairs. Okay, so just in case you're not sure what a factor is, let's talk about that. So a factor is something that you multiply by another factor to get a number. For an example, factor times factor equals a multiple. Now, multiples are something we'll discuss in another video, but today's focus is going to be on factors. So factors are the numbers that you multiply together to get a certain number. So if I need to find the factors of 16, that means I need to find two numbers or a factor pair that multiplies to give me 16. Now, I do have several options, and all those options are called factor pairs. So sometimes the easiest way to find a factor of a certain number is to list the factor pairs. So I'm going to start with 16 right here. And we can always do 1 times the number itself. That will work for every number. So 1 times 16 might be that first factor pair. So now our next factor pair, let's see what we could think of. We could try 2. And I think 2 will work because 16 is an even number. And all even numbers have 2 as a factor. So 2 times, and I believe it's 8, gives me 16. Okay, so next I could try 3, but 3, I can't think of anything I can multiply 3 times to get 16. 3 times 5 would be 15, so that's close, but not quite. 4 is the next one, and I can do that by getting 4 times 4. Now I know I can stop, and the reason I know I can stop is because once I've looped around to the other side of the factor pairs, or the numbers start to repeat, I can stop. So out of those factor pairs, 3 is not an option. 9 was not in our list of factor pairs. 2 was, but 7 was not. So from this list on the left, we were able to identify 2 as a factor of 16. Okay, here's our next one. Which number is a factor of 42? So let's start by listing some factor pairs of 42. I'm going to go ahead and do that over here. Now I know I can always do 1 times the number itself. So 1 times 42 is a factor pair. 42 is an even number, so I know 2 will work. I just have to figure out 2 times what gives me 42. And if I'm stuck on that, what I could do is divide it. I could do 42 divided by 2, and that would give me the other factor pair. But it should be 21. Okay, the next one I can try is 3. And if I'm not sure that 3 works, I could always divide it by 3 just to see. So let's do that. Let's do 42 divided by 3. 3 fits into 4 once. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract that, I get 1. Bring down the 2. Oh, yes, and 3 fits into 12 4 times. So that means, and there's no remainder. So if you divided it and there was a remainder, that wouldn't work. But since there's no remainder here, that means 3 times 14 is a factor pair for 42. So now let's try 4, because that's the next one on our list. Let's divide it by 4. 4 goes into 4 once. 1 times 4 is 4. When I subtract that, I get 0 left over. Bring down the 2. 4 does not fit into 2, but I would end up with a remainder because I'd have to keep going. So I know that 4 is not a factor, and there's no factor pair with 4. I know 5 isn't going to work because 42 doesn't end in 5 or 0. So I know 5 doesn't work. Let's try 6. Now, I know the reason that 6 will work is because there's a little rule that says if 2 is a factor and 3 is a factor, then 6 will also be a factor. And this is a multiplication fact that I know, 6 times 7. So now I get to stop because I've made that loop. The next one I would try would be 7, but we already know 7 works. So now everything from now on, we know is going to work, at least as we get bigger factors. So once we make that loop back to where we started, we can stop. So from the list, 9 is not there, 5 is not there, 7 is there, but 4 is not. So the factor from this list is 7 for 42. Okay, here is our next one. Which number is a factor of 24? Okay, so let's go ahead and give this a try. Now, since we have a list of multiple choices, we could either make all the factor pairs for 24 and compare and see like we have been, or we can just check each of the options that we have to see. Well, 5 is not a factor because 24 does not end in 5 or 0. So 5 is not going to work. 10 is not going to work because 24 does not end in 0. So if you know these little rules and tricks, this can get pretty, this can help you along, make it a little bit less work for you to figure this out. Now, 24 divided by 7, I don't think that goes in evenly. I think you would have a remainder. So I don't think 7 is going to work. Now, the only option left is 8. So I'm going to circle that one, but I am going to check it. 24 divided by 8 is 3. So that does work. There'd be no remainder there. So the only number from this list that is a factor of 24 is 8. Okay, here is our next one. We're trying to find which number from this list is a factor of 18. So again, I could list all the factor pairs and then compare, or I could just take each choice at a time and try to figure it out. Well, 18 divided by 4, I don't think that would go in evenly because 4 times 4 is 16, and then 4 times 5 is 20. So there is no 18 in that list. So I'm going to cross that one off. I know that 5 won't work because 18 does not end in 5 or 0. So that one will not work. 7 times 2 is 14, but 7 times 3 is 21. There was no 18 on that list, which means if I took 18 and divided it by 7, I would end up with a remainder. So that's not going to work. The only option left is 6, but let's double check. So 6 times 2 is 12, and 6 times 3 is 18. So that means that 18 divided by 6 would be 3. So yes, 6 is a factor of 18. Okay, here is our last example for today's video, which is a factor pair for 36. Okay, so now we're going to use our factor pairs. We're going to list them out because now we have to find a factor pair. Or our other choice would be to multiply each of these choices together to see if it ends up being 36. So 3 times 8 is 24, which is not 36, so we could cross that off. 3 times 9 is 27, which again is not 36, so we could cross that off. 8 times 4 is 32, which is not 36. So it's got to be the last one. 4 times 9 is 36, which is exactly what we're looking for. So from this list, the factor pair for 36 would be 4 and 9. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope to see you in another video soon.